At the end of the day, all you need to do is pay your ICASA license, and you're more than welcome to join us on the net. It's open to all radio amateurs, especially the guys who've got an interest, and gals for that matter. My apologies for the cough. Specifically for those guys and girls who've got an interest in emergency communications or anything else we might in actual fact be covering. So having said that, I actually want to kick off tonight and just go back on those on that regulation that we were discussing last week, which of course is Regulation 19. And as I pointed out, that the regulation said that in order to qualify for self-quarantine or self-isolation, the applicant must have the following, and 19(1)(a) stipulated: separate, well-ventilated bedroom with bathroom and toilet, or a residence that is not shared with persons who are not subject to a quarantine or to quarantine. And B, that meals served in the room in disposable utensils or utensils that are separate and are washed properly if there are persons who are not subject to quarantine. So the third point said support from friends or family that can facilitate the drop-off of food and medicine at the gate if they are not able to make use of online shopping facilities and contactless deliveries. And that is the point that I wanted to cover tonight. Whenever we read regulations, as I said last week, or read any document, any message, any correspondence, now a lot of people actually were sitting back thinking last Sunday, but what has this got to do with emergency communications? Well, quite simply this: if we don't transmit the message correctly, we definitely are not going to be able to interpret or understand the message which is received. And our actions are determined by the interpretation of the instruction given in the message. And if our interpretation is incorrect, our action is going to be incorrect. And instead of saving lives, we could in actual fact be losing lives. And the purpose of emergency communications, ultimately at the end of the day, has got one primary objective, and that is to save lives. There is no other reason but to save lives. Every action that an MCOM operator undertakes, pursues, carries out, somewhere along the line, the consequences of what they do or don't do, for that matter, could cost a life or save a life. So the primary purpose of emergency communications is to save lives. And in order to be able to do that, not only do we have a responsibility to send the message correctly and clearly, but most definitely to interpret the message correctly and clearly. So accuracy becomes a critical task of MCOM. So, you know, why am I looking at a regulation that has been written specifically in terms of the national state or the state of national disaster, the declared state of national disaster? Well, that regulation is a form of communication that has been sent by others for us to interpret and to act upon, or to action, or to carry out, or to undertake a task or function or something. And on the group, I asked everybody, Read the regulation and give me your comments. What do you see in the regulation? And I specifically asked for non-emotional answers. Non-emotional answers. In other words, I didn't, and I knew that many people reading this regulation countrywide are going to take it on an emotional basis and say, this is wrong. And this is not right. And this is doing this, and this is doing that, and this is doing the next thing. But ultimately, at the end of the day, our interpretation, if it is wrong, will produce such results. And if you read carefully on 19.1c, there's an opportunity that has been presented that has been ignored because of the emotional reading of that particular clause. Okay, a lot of people are emotional about the regulation because they are emotional about COVID-19, because they don't understand coronavirus. It is having an impact on people, everybody, not just in South Africa, but across the world. Virtually no person is being spared from coronavirus in one way or another. Some are directly infected with the virus, hospitalized, losing their lives, incapacitated, sometimes for a short period of time, longer for others, but every single person has been impacted, loss of jobs, etc., 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 etc. That forms part of the psychological aspect, that victims of disaster and volunteers and volunteer workers suffer the consequences of. There's a psychological impact that needs to be considered here. And when we are emotional, we miss the psychological aspect. And when we read MCOM messages, our interpretation is incorrect. So I want to go back to 19.1c and just cover that point specifically. So 19.1 says that in order to qualify for self-quarantine or self-isolation, the applicant must have the following, and this is now C, support from friends or family. That's the first thing. Support from friends or family. And I've been saying literally from February on all of the nets, guys, reach out to your friends, your family, and check up on them. See if they are okay. And I know many people out there that have heard me make this statement, whether on amateur radio or on other platforms, have actually said to themselves, old Papa Smurf is losing it. What has that got to do with disaster relief or disaster assistance or emergency communications or anything along those lines? Well, let's go back to Regulation 19.1c and read on. Support from friends or family that can facilitate the drop-off of food and medicine at the gate. Oh, I love that. This form of communication is giving us very specific and clear instruction as an individual, not an MCOM operator, not somebody, a NGO, a PBO, healthcare worker, ILS, ALS, disaster relief organization, but an individual. That's how wide and broad this particular regulation is, that every person reading it, if they in actual fact take time to read it, would see the opportunity of providing support as a friend or as a family member to friends and family members, so that you can facilitate the drop-off of food and medicine, and take note of the instruction at the gate. Not inside the house. It's not time to visit, not time for a cup of coffee, not time for a braai, not time to socialize. That is how people are getting infected today. The instruction is clear. Facilitate the drop-off of food and medicine at the gate. And the instruction actually goes further and says, if they are not able to make use of online shopping facilities and contactless deliveries. If they are not able to make use of online shopping facilities and contactless deliveries. You know, personally speaking, on the emotional side, I disagree with the 5,000 odd lines of regulations that were implemented. That's a personal opinion. But I'm not going to force that opinion upon any person. The opinion that I am going to bring out is one of saving lives. And if we analyze 19(1)(c) in particular, you will see there's absolutely nothing emotional in that particular clause or regulation as an instruction. Because that instruction that has been given most definitely is there and intended to produce the result or a consequence of potentially saving a life. That particular clause, if we as individuals take the emotional out of COVID, out of a disaster situation in whatever format it may present, and we look for the opportunity to save lives in communications or instructions given, 9 times out of 10 you will find them there. The other 10% might just be informational purposes only. So for all intents and purposes, actually 19(1)(a), (b), and (c) has a desired outcome of saving a life, and therefore when we read an instruction like this or a form of communication such as this, we should be looking at the opportunity that is presented in that instruction or communication which we receive. Not to take things for granted or ultimately become emotional and personal about it, but to understand why the instruction is in actual fact given at the gate. At the gate. Anything beyond your gate could put you in hospital. It's too close. Until there is further evidence, scientific, medical, journaled evidence that changes the concept of washing your hands, not touching your face, wearing of a face mask, not to protect you, but to protect others, and socially distance, or, you know, I've never liked the term social distancing, physical distancing, because to socially distance could imply don't make contact telephonically, FaceTime, WhatsApp, Skype, or otherwise. But physical distancing. Follow the instructions for us that receive instruction or would or could be expected to receive instruction, is to look for that opportunity to save lives. If you do not understand it, sure, ask the question. And then for those of you that know me, I never make life easy. Everything I do and I design it for failure. Because it is from the failure that you will learn. It is from the failure that you will remember. It is from the failure that when presented with the situation, your mind subconsciously kicks back into the failure, and from that, you have been given the correct answer, the correct method, the correct manner to save the life, and with sufficient practice and exercising on a weekly, daily, monthly basis, at the time that it is required, it will kick in automatically and you will be able to proceed forward with confidence. To give you a practical example, those of us that do first aid, those of us that are taught CPR, we practice on a doll. And we do it a couple of times, and the examiner, facilitator, does an evaluation and says, okay, you understand and grasp the concept and you are proficient in what you are doing, and they, in actual fact, give you a proficiency certificate to say you are capable of providing CPR until the day your first patient is presented to you. What am I supposed to do? There is a hesitation. And then somewhere along the line, that training kicks in. And what happens is you, in actual fact, get down on your hands and knees and you begin CPR. And for those that have done and performed CPR in real life will know it's not just a 50-50 chance of helping your patient, but there's a 1% possibility that you will revive your patient. Life is not what we see on TV and in movies. 9 times out of 10, almost 9.9 times out of 10, rescuers lose the patient. But I can tell you one thing. When they come to their senses and recover from the shock and the adrenaline and all the rest of it, the next time they are presented, they don't hesitate, they get stuck in. And they become hardened to the potential of losing the life in that circumstance. However, how does that tie up with things like Regulation 19(1)(c)? Quite simply this, that on the time of taking the decision to do first aid, somewhere along the line, they've actually identified the potential of saving a life. As individuals, we might not know our next door neighbor and never be able to do anything with our next door neighbor. We might be able to have an impact on somebody hundreds of kilometers away just by means of the telephone or two-way radio or cell phone, not just ordinary telephone, email, Skype, Zoom. Look for the opportunity, people. If you've got an interest anywhere, somewhere along the lines of being able to not only provide assistance for yourself, but if you have a desire to provide assistance to any other person, whether it's family, friends, or a total stranger, there are times that the emotional aspect needs to come out of it, and we need to look for that opportunity to save lives or to prevent the loss of lives. You know the saying, prevention is better than cure? Well, 191C is preventative at the gate. South Africa is currently moving towards the escalation into the peak of this pandemic. So with a global figure now at 17,839,641, tomorrow, within the next 12 hours, we will definitely be 18 million. We will have increased another million in 4 days. This trend is actually becoming far more steep on the vertical incline. 4 days, 1 million globally. 679,000 people have lost their lives globally. And I want to ask each and every single person for themselves to think about the following question and then to ask the people that they know this question. How many of you expected to see a South African figure of 500,000 infected in the country? Honestly. A lot of people thought this was a joke. South Africa now 503,290. That was it last night. We are still averaging approximately 10,000 new cases per day. The South African loss of life stands at 8,153 people. Which of your family members would you like to see as part of that statistic at the gate? At the gate. Okay, let's round this off. In essence, by being emotional, we miss we are blinded to seeing the opportunity in instruction. By being emotional and incorrectly interpreting an instruction or communication, we may not save a life. We may actually cause loss of life. It's basically what it boils down to. The purpose of attending training, discussions, meetings, nets, bulletins, get-togethers is all part and parcel of being able to get information across to people. When somebody wishes to impart a message, it is unfair to expect them to do it, the same message over and over and over on a one-to-one basis. If everybody comes together at one time and gets the message once, everybody's on the same page from the same time or same point in time moving forward. And in so doing, lives can be saved. Hardship can be saved. Struggles can be avoided. Let's remove the emotional and look for the opportunistic variables that are presented to us. So let's hear. I'll start at the top of the list. We've got exactly 5 minutes and I'm closing down. Zoom will close in 5 as well. I'm going to go on a round robin. If there's any questions you want to ask, please ask them when I call your name, and we'll try and answer it. Otherwise, you can give your greetings and wish us all the best for the coming week. I know everybody needs it. So ZS6VIL, ZS6OPS.
On my side, all good, and all the business for this week.
All right, good stuff. Thanks, Batus. Pierre, ZS6FPS, ZS6OPS.
Good evening, everybody on the net. Yeah, everything fine on our side. But all have a very good week and blessings. We all need it. I can see that this whole pandemic is not only a medical or a health issue, but also financial for many people. So, yeah, Godspeed. ZS6 OPS from ZS6 FPS.
Okay, thanks, Pierre. ZS6SNY, ZS6 OPS.
ZS6SNY returning from OPS. Good evening, everybody else on the net. I'd like to echo his what do you call it, sentiments in this, that it is the pandemic with regards to health, but also economically wise. And I wish that everybody all the best. And if there's anything, I think that we can help where there's other places available.
Okay, thanks, Adrian. All right, let me try that again. Okay, thanks there, Adrian. I don't know what happened. I thought I'd keyed up, but of course, Echolink has taken over there. Competing with the Kerchunkas, that's for sure. Who's next? Norman, ZS6SCO, ZS6OPS. Okay, I don't know where Norman has gone. Rory, ZS6RBJ, ZS6OPS.
Normally we put kids together, but most of that, and quite interesting. I think the thing that we're seeing more and more as well is what you've brought up many times is the psychological impact of it, and that's also going to be something that's going to last much longer than the virus, unfortunately. My neighbor's wife who contracted it is well on the way to recovery now, but unfortunately his older daughter has also contracted it now. So he's kept everybody in the loop and let the complex know what's going on, and been quite open and honest about everything. And fortunately for him, he's still testing negative. end what it can do. But they're in good spirits otherwise. Nothing else to report from my side, Chad. That is 6 OPS, that is 6 RBJ.
Okay, guys, if Zoom bombs out, give it 30 seconds and then open it up again. I'll just recreate it there. All right, good stuff. Yeah, no, thanks, Rory, definitely on that one. So let's just check if there's anybody else that would like to be added to the bottom of the list tonight, and then I'll start the close down there quickly. ZS6 OPS standing by. Melissa, is there anything you want to add?
Just thank you. And yeah, definitely with Rory there, I think, and we all know we're in for, we only think the beginning, we haven't even got there. We're in for a rough ride. Thanks that we can all check in. I'll start to do more regular check-ins in the day. And just that's it to Almal. Yeah, thanks.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, I just checked if there was anything from Melissa's side quickly. So there we go. Thanks, guys. Nobody else has come up, so I'm going to bid everybody all the best for this coming week. I just want to add that Dr. Tedros of the World Health Organization has indicated that coronavirus, COVID-19 in particular, is going to be around for years to come. So, you know, this is not something that's, we're going to get up tomorrow morning and the switch has been pulled and it's just disappeared. So, yeah, the norm is dead and we've now got to